Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of HelioPsychosis podcast. This is your host Vikka Draziv. Welcome, guys. If you're watching us from YouTube, do comment, like, share, and subscribe if you haven't. And if you're watching us from Flat Earth Research Network or HelioPsychosis group, welcome and do comment and do tag your friends to join the show. And if you're watching us from realtruthseekers.com or realtruthseekers.net, a big shout out to everybody there. We have a huge community there. And realtruthseekers.com, rts.video are one of our main sponsors for our projects, not only for HelioPsychosis show, but also Truth Frequency Films and Truth in Plain Sight. So make sure, guys, you do check out realtruthseekers.com. And with today's shows, let's welcome our guest, my co-host, as always, helicopter pilot, scientist, my good friend Rob Taylor. Rob, how are you?
Hello, thank you, Vika. Thank you for the invitation and thank you for the show. Always, for everyone else, if there ever was a flat Earth guru, it is Vika Draziv. Thank you for all the work you put into the Flatten the Curve documentary. That was phenomenal, and it shall stand for all history. Closing the gap between scripture and science, proving that Jesus Christ is the creator. Jesus Christ does live, and all the creation, all the truth points to Jesus Christ. Thank you. Also want to say hello to Gene Edited and Darryle. Nice to meet you guys. Looking forward to the webcast today.
Oh, great, brother. Welcome, brother. Always great to have you. And our co-host, second co-host who always join us, Jeannie. Jeannie, how are you?
I'm doing great, Vika. Thanks for the invite. I've been looking forward to being here this week. Rob, how are you, brother? And hope all is well over there. And Darryle, great to have you here, buddy. I'm glad you made it. Welcome. Hi to everybody out
Exactly.
there in the chats too. Sorry, guys. I'd like to say hello to everyone in the chat. Thanks for coming back, guys. Great to have you. Couldn't do it without you.
Exactly. And our special guest tonight, we all know him for one of the one of the things he did a few years ago that got a lot of attention from everybody, most of it positive, and we will be looking forward for this show with him. We all know him for his works. Welcome, Darryle. How are you, Darryle?
Oh, hi, Vika. Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for having me on, man. Really appreciate it. Haven't done an interview in a while, so I might be a little rusty here. I
It's
appreciate
great,
you.
brother, to have you. Yep, it's great to have you here, brother. So, as you being our guest, we would like to start with you, Darryle. You want to share something that how you became a flat earther, when, and a bit if you want to share with our audience.
Yeah. Well, this all started for me shortly after I left the army. Because I was in the army for a little under 8 years, and I got out. During that time that I was in, 9/11 happened, and I didn't really get a chance to look into it until around 2008, 2009 timeframe. At that time, I started to look back as to why I spent a year in Iraq, and I wanted to, kind of delve off into that. And along the lines, I kind of came across some information about corruption in the government, and then it goes a little bit deeper that these, politicians are involved in secret societies and all that type of stuff. So, after I go down that rabbit hole, I get into a lot of other stuff: the Freemasons, Illuminati, and Sandy Hook. Looked into how 9/11 was an inside job, is where it got started, and just went on to a whole lot of other stuff. Corruption in the food distribution, how they're poisoning the water, chemtrails, you name it. I got into it for a while. Me and my ex-girlfriend, and we got burned out for a little bit, and got off of YouTube because we were going at it like pretty much every night. We'll get off work, and then we'll have some dinner, and then we're just in the bed, watching different videos on YouTube. Like, hey, I came across something, check this out, and she'll come to me with something, and we were just into it for like months and months. So after a while, we kind of, noticed that the constant delving into the negativity kind of started to weigh on us, and we decided to step away from it for a little bit. So we, went on to Netflix and decided to just kind of unplug. And we ended up watching this show called Under the Dome. And
Right.
yeah, and in that show, it was about this small town. These guys found this alien technology, and it created this dome over the entire town, and the people were locked in. And I mean, it just went through all that, and it was just 3 seasons, and we got through that pretty quickly. And once you finish binge watching a show on Netflix, you kind of get this empty feeling, like, all right, now what? So that's where we were. So we went back to what was familiar. We went back onto YouTube and typed in Under the Dome. And then the first video that popped up, it was there was a thumbnail on it. It looked like Earth, except it was flat. There was a dome over it. It looked like it was kind of floating out in space. It was, a weird thumbnail. I'd never seen anything like it. So I clicked on that. I was like, what's this about? And that video turned out to be a compilation of Mark Sargent's Flat Earth Clues. So that was my
Right.
first exposure to Flat Earth, and that happened back in 2015, I believe it was. Or about 2015, somewhere around that time frame, around that summer. And we ended up watching this video. It was about 2 hours long, and like within the first few seconds, he says, this is a Reader's Digest version of the flat Earth and some of the more intricate details. And we pause it. We're looking at each other like, well, did he say flat Earth? What's flat Earth? Like I had never heard of it. And by the end of that video, we're like, okay, let's watch that again. And we watched it over and over a lot of that weekend. And then that was like a Friday night when we turned that on. And then by like Sunday afternoon, we were like, yeah, I'm pretty sure Earth is flat, because we had already looked into all these other instances where the governments of the world had lied to people about just stuff that was a lot smaller. So I'm like, if they would lie to us about those other things, what else would they lie about? Yeah, I think they would lie about the shape of the Earth. Doesn't seem like the moon landings really pan out. I've never actually felt
So
the Earth move.
exactly. If the government is lying about everything, how can be they not lie about the shape of the Earth? It's so instant, actually, for everybody, but many don't want to see it. But it's true. What do you say? Yep.
Yep. And that's pretty much where I was at with it, it all kind of tied together, just like you said, so yeah, they lied to us about where we live, because we already had this general distrust of the governments anyway, and it was just easy to accept. So I mean, I hear people saying, yeah, I heard about flat Earth and I tried to debunk it. I never tried to debunk flat Earth. It just kind of it came naturally to me.
That's
Right,
funny
right.
how you went to escape the reality of it, and you walk right back into it in a fictitious type of setting.
Yeah,
because we're surrounded. We're completely surrounded by all of it, and I wish it was easier for some people to understand and see through what they're trying to cover up.
Yep.
Because you can't go anywhere without it.
There you go, Darryle. This is Rob. Anybody? There's a lot of people I meet that they still have this love of government. They can't understand that everything the government, and I ask them, is there anything the government has ever told you that you can believe in, that it exactly true as they say it? The answer is no. But still, many they have this love of government and school for some reason. And a lot of them, I say, anybody, I said, and I tell them, don't ever talk to any military people, because anybody who's been in the military more than 2 days or 2 weeks, they live the lie themselves, right? So Darryle, your mind was well prepared, obviously well prepared after your 8 years in the service. Mine was extremely well prepared after 8 years Army aviation service, and then 8 years or 9 years aviation service and 9 years embassy work on African continents. So I worked for Department of State as well. So that shows me that, I mean, what that means is I saw the Army lines and I saw the Department of State lines, which are far worse than the Army lines, if you see what I mean. So
Yeah.
ready for it when I came across it. Well done. And really, you and your wife, you found it for yourself. No one handed it to you. You detected it along the line. That's phenomenal. That's one of the first self-made, self-flat earth people. You and your girlfriend. That is well done. That's pretty good on your side.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, it's a different story than I hear from a lot of people.
Yep.
I never really had to deal with the isolation of like not having anyone to talk to. And that's something I heard from a lot of people when I was more active on YouTube. People would always message me like, "Man, I don't have anybody to talk to." I'm like, "Oh, shoot." So having heard so many people saying that, I started to encourage people to start doing flat Earth meetups. Because I mean, I was hearing this kind of similar topic, an ongoing topic from so many different people that they didn't have anybody to talk to. So what I wanted to do was kind of, put out the idea, facilitate this concept of people in the local area that, happen to know that the earth is flat. Maybe you can, set up a time to meet up at a restaurant or, a pub or a bar or something and go have some fun and, have some conversations that you just can't have with the people that you're around on a regular basis. So, it's one of those other things I was trying to do out there is looking at how people were dealing with this truth, just trying to sympathize with the loneliness that comes along with it.
Right, right. And also to what Rob was saying, like the people love the government so much because there are many people who don't believe in that the moon landing and many other conspiracies, but when it comes to the shape of the earth, they say they believe in the government. That's one of the most ridiculous part of the
That's
conspiracy.
where the buck stops.
Right.
They don't trust the government at all, but they believe they pick and choose it. Yep, I'm with them on this one.
That and the evolution thing too. I have a few friends who are stuck on evolution and globe Earth, but they can't stand the feds. They cannot stand anything they do, but they're not realizing that this stuff's all coming from the same source.
Yeah, exactly. The same source, right?
Same place. It's just they call it different things. The medical industry, school, government. It's just labeled
We have
different
to.
things.
Yeah, we have to avoid the hot words because I've already got a warning from YouTube because of that submarine video. You remember we did it, and it wasn't even public. It wasn't even private. It was hidden on my channel, and they still send me a warning. So we have to
What was
take
the
care
warning
with the
about?
hot words. All right. Yeah. So I had another question for Darryle. Darryle, you said you were into army. Were you into something specialist or only combat or anything with that?
No. Well, actually, and I appreciate that question too, because a lot of people just assume that because someone was in the military that they're like some sort of super spy or something like that. No, I was actually a logistics specialist. My MOS was 92 Yankee, unit supply specialist. So, what I did when I was in the Army, it was more along the lines of, turning in and requisitioning military equipment, inventory management, weapons maintenance, keeping track of the files in the arms room, things like that. I wasn't like a spy or anything like that. I was a
Oh,
logistic
the
guy.
army is huge. Yeah, yeah. You could be anybody. Could be any part of the army. Even Rob. Most of the people we have in the documentary are from the army or the navy or the, So people, we are people. Everybody's people, and they have their views and they have their opinions. They have their life. They have their family. They have everything. That doesn't mean if you just have any government work, you have to be a spy or whatever. it's
Yeah.
it's it's not like that. And with our documentary Flat in the Curve, each and every person, most of the person are related to that, right, Rob?
Yes, indeed. The Army is it's an employer after all. There's people there with regular jobs doing their regular day to day.
Yeah. True story.
Excellent. So, Daryl, and from the time you realized flat Earth and to the time you did this spirit level experiment, how much time are you speaking? It was instant after that, or after you just meditated on it, or it came to you as a vision, or you want to share that something?
It took a couple of years actually, because I was a flat earther even back in 2015, like I said, and then the spirit level experiment that didn't come out until 2017, around that time frame. And that all came about too. There was a gradual progression towards doing that also. um I had just gotten involved with my first flat Earth group on Facebook. I'm like, wow, okay, cool. So I got a group of people, and we're all posting our stuff, and we're talking about this thing, and I was excited about that. So what I wanted to do was, just kind of, I was hot and heavy trying to spread the word. Like a lot of us are when we get fired up about it. So there were these guys that I was talking to while I was at work, and there were like five guys that I used to deal with on a regular basis. I'll just call them the load team, and they used to load up these vehicles and ship them out and all that. Back when I was at my old job, so I would go out and I would see these guys on a regular basis, and just hang out. They were out in the shed, out in the yard, and I would go hang out with them and go talk flat Earth with them. There were two were on my side, two were negative, and one guy was kind of in the middle. My buddy Omar, he's a flat earther now, by the way. So I'm talking to Omar, and what I would do with these guys, I would go home and I'll watch some videos, and then I'll come back the next day like, dude, I saw this yesterday, blah blah blah, and I would just go over it, and then we would just argue our points. And Omar, I would just kind of target him because he was the neutral character, you know. And I was thinking, I was like, all right, so look, if you have a level and you drive from here in Tacoma all the way to Portland, the level would still show as being, flush, from here to there, and you wouldn't be able to notice any curvature. And I was thinking about that while I was saying it, like there's really no way to do an experiment like that. But then I thought about it. I'm like, well, wait a minute. I'm actually going to see my daughter in a few weeks. What if I took a level onto an airplane and film that because the airplane's flying faster, it's going to get to a cruising altitude, and it's just going to kind of level off. What if I take my level onto a plane and then record that? So then that's kind of where that idea came from, me attempting to talk out an experiment, like driving from one place to another, and then just kind of had the idea that, well, I could take it onto an airplane and that'll work out a lot better. So that's kind of the origin of that.
Excellent. So, yeah, because it's something very physical, and with, as you say, on the road, it's maybe, the elevation, the angle, the a little bit of difference of elevation could, it could go, you could feel the spirit level, the level moving. But on an airplane, once it's level, if there is even a slightest movement, that water should detect.
Water
Yeah.
is a motion detector, right, Rob?
Yep, there it is. Sorry about that. I had delay on that. Yeah, water is a motion detector. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So did you have the level set up for the whole entire flight, like takeoff and landing, as well as
I actually, what I did, I just recorded when the plane had got to cruising altitude.
right? That's what
The
I
thing is,
saw. I was wondering if you had it on before to see the pitch or whatever.
no.
So they
Well, I
don't.
mean, that's the thing. If you've flown before, those flight attendants, they're pretty hardcore about that whole. Make sure that your seat backs and tray tables are in their upright position
Yeah.
during
Yeah.
takeoff and landing. So I wasn't trying to get beat up on the plane.
Right. That was my next question. Did you have any flack from anyone in the plane? Were they
No,
asking questions or?
no. On that flight, it was a pretty quiet flight. The ladies that were next to me, like I was actually in the middle seat when I was doing that experiment. So both of the ladies on either side of me, they were both asleep the whole time, and yeah, it was pretty painless. Not a problem. Not a problem at all.
That was great. I
So,
was happy
Darryle,
to see the
are
success
you
it
familiar
had
with
throughout the
aviation
community.
term
Wait, say
straight
again?
and level? Are you familiar with that, Darryle? Straight and level.
Say again?
There's a pilot term, and the term is straight and level. It's day one of instrument flying. It's really day one of map to map flying. Straight and level. Are you familiar with it?
Yeah, vaguely.
Here's what it means. When the airplane reaches its flight altitude and it's going from one point to another, straight means it's on the proper heading. It's on the proper compass heading. It's going where it needs to go. And level means its wings are level, means it's not turning left or right, means it's flying where it wants to go. And then it's not flying down. It's not decreasing altitude, or it's not losing altitude. It's not gaining altitude. Aircraft, and now it's even a level off check. There's even a check as a standard pilot procedure that once we arrive at our altitude, we want to stay at that altitude for the remainder of the flight. So if you got a 4-hour flight from Austin, for example, to Phoenix, or from Dallas to Phoenix, or from Phoenix to Salt Lake City, the aircraft will stay at the same altitude throughout the flight. And also there is an indication on the aircraft dashboard. It's called the attitude indicator, also known as the ADI. It shows that the aircraft is always got its nose three degrees up. So what I'm, long story short, what that should show on sorry, here's what it is. The attitude indicator is a level. It's based on a gyro. So your level is based on a spirit level. It's based on a bubble in water. Well, the attitude indicator on the pilot's dashboard is based on a gyro, and the two will agree that the nose is not dipping down as it curves around the shape of the Earth. The aircraft will fly straight and level for 19 hours. For example, if you're flying from Seattle, Washington to Seoul, Korea, that's a 19-hour flight. The aircraft maintains the same straight and level for hours and hours.
Yep.
So that's I'm sure that's what you saw when you're flying.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's what I saw like every time. Here's the thing, I fly a lot. I've flown a whole lot. The situation before was that my children were in Arkansas. They were here in Arkansas, and I was out in Tacoma, Washington. So I would fly out to visit my kids like every other month, So I got really comfortable, catching flights and, just looking out the window and, I just got used to it. And, after a while, it just kind of made sense. Like, wait a minute, we take off, the plane's got his nose up, then we level out and we're just flying straight the whole time. And then, when it's time to land, the nose kind of they nose up to make sure the rear landing gear hits the ground first, and then that's it. I know that the plane is not making up for the curvature of the earth, and so I wanted to display that as best I could for people who weren't able to fly as often as I could.
Right. So I was looking through some. There were so many sites. This article was on Darryle, and so many, globetrotters trying to make fun of it, or giving it the wrong publicity. These people. So what was your experience about that? Or from all these people trying to troll you around with this, or
Well, after a while, you kind of get used to it. I mean, it was a lot at first because, like the first day that the video was starting to go viral, I got a message from Mark Sargent, oddly, and that popped up on my phone while I was at work, and he left a comment on the Spirit Level video. It said, "Hey, you made the news, man." I'm like, I'm at work looking at my phone like, Mark
That must
Sargent.
have been cool.
Yeah, I was like, Mark Sargent, what the heck? And then he left a link, and then I click on the link, and it takes me to this article from IFL Science, and it's got my name, got my face, linked to the video, and I was wondering what was going on because the video had gotten up to like maybe like 800 views, and then like the very next day, it got up to like 7,500 when I woke up, and I'm starting to get all
Wow.
these notifications on my phone. And then by the end of the day, it got up to like 100,000, and then the next day it was like at 185,000. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And I got that message from Mark. I check out that article. I'm like, oh, they're making fun of me, huh? And driving people to my YouTube channel so they can make fun of me too. That's awesome.
right.
you know so I mean everything just kind of happened all at once. I don't get too upset about it, to be honest with you. I work out a lot to keep kind of stress relief, because even to this day I get people, they're still doing articles about that video. They're still doing them, like even now 4 years later, 4 or 5 years later, now they're doing they're still doing articles about that experiment and sending people to my channel, and people are
That's
still
great.
making comments on it. And there's one video on Facebook that got more views than my video on YouTube. It got up to like 5 million views. And I'm seeing people in the comments calling me an idiot. Some people saying I'm a genius. Some people saying they agree. Others saying they don't. I'm like, all right, whatever. You take the good with the bad. What I knew at that point, seeing how that video was starting to go viral, I knew that a lot more people are going to be coming to my channel. So I might as well start making videos to kind of defend my point, you know. And my thought process when making my YouTube videos was just to answer all of these. Okay, so here, let me backtrack. When you put yourself out there, and say that the Earth is flat, on social media, for example, if you go on Facebook and say that, and most people on your friends list that would comment, they all think that they live on a spinning ball. They're going to get into the comment section on that post, and they're going to tell you all the reasons. They're going to say, like in relation to my experiment. Well, didn't you look out the window? You're not thinking about time zones. You're not thinking about this. What about gravity? Why do we get to see boats going over the curvature? What about the sun? What about the moon? You don't think the moon landings exist? What about the ISS? They'll go into all these different things. So what I would do, I took a lot of the most frequently asked questions as they came, and I made videos responding to those things, in my own way. And that's kind of how I did my exposure on YouTube early on. A lot of it was answering those questions, and then I went off to doing other experiments. I was living a free life, pretty much living out of my van. So I could just get up and go whenever I felt the need to, and I was by myself. So I had complete freedom to go and express myself however I wanted to as far as my channel went, and got to work as hard on the videos as I saw fit. And so that's how it went with YouTube. But I didn't really stress out too much about all the haters and the naysayers. Like I said, you have to take the good with the bad when these things happen.
But yeah, it's true because they try, like your case is like something they like to grab and make fun of it, but they don't know that they're taking the word far away for they're taking far for us, to reach more people, because there are, okay, the indoctrinated will be like making fun or being blind, but there are many who's going to wake up, so
Yeah, yeah, and that was one of those things that I kind of knew was going to happen. I'm like, well, if you're going to drive people to my channel, I might as well give them something to check out. Then um, and it worked, in a lot of examples. It worked very well.
That's a great way to handle it too.
exactly.
Though.
Yeah, yeah, pretty good, pretty good. I just wanted to put together some kind of strategy. Since they were gonna give me an audience whether I wanted it or not, I might as well give them something to think about. So I started
Excellent, excellent.
so I started first off doing kind of a series as it goes, spirit level experiment rebuttals. I would do those, and they would say, just look out of the window. That's one of those frequently left comments. Did you ever think about looking out of the window? I'm like, yes,
But
I
but
thought.
but does it make sense? Does it make sense? Look out of the window. What are we seeing out of the window? We are seeing we're not seeing any curve. If you were doing an experiment with a spirit level that is not moving in a straight and level flight, what does it make sense to look outside? Is it not?
Well,
It's not even curving down, or it's not even going. Like going up. It's flying straight and level. So what does that mean? These people.
but Neil
Yeah.
Neil deGrasse Tyson debunks that because he says that if that's the guru of the ball Earth, and he says that you can't see it from an airplane.
Hmm.
That it's just not high enough.
Yeah. Yeah, he really did. What he say? That stuff is flat.
Yep.
I
You can't see the curve from 2 millimeters above this beach ball. That
yeah,
stuff is flat.
yep,
But
that's what he
but
said. And
we're supposed to be able to see ships go over the curve, over the horizon. Funny
Yeah,
how that
3
works
miles
out.
away.
yeah,
That's at 3 miles. They say that happens.
yep,
Yeah, exactly.
So
But we
they
can't
want
see it.
everything both ways, though. They want all of their rules to be bent according to how they need them. That's all there is to that.
Of
They
course.
want the rain to be dry and the snow to be warm.
Exactly right.
That's
Yeah,
what they want.
exactly.
Yeah,
And that's how they talk.
They
That's how
do.
they talk.
It's
And they act
psychobabble.
like it's all true. And they carry on like it's absolutely true when it's completely absurd. Everything they say is absurd, and it fails. It fails as soon as we put it to the test. It fails every test. It fails the first test when we put it to the numbers. It fails. It's too easy.
I'm gonna give a quick shout out to the people in the chat. It's Truth Seekers 2. Hey, Flat Thumbs brother, Dr. Frankenstein, Carl Fletcher. Hello, brother. J Daddy. Who are you, brother? Flat Earth Chip Bear. We've got Gary Towner, Pablo, Simon Frank,
Nice crowd.
DN. Yep. And who else we got? If you have any question for anybody, please do leave a comment. Brian Odell. Thank you guys for joining us. We have Rob Taylor, Genie Edited, and we have Darryle Marble tonight on the show with us. Doing great, Carl. Thanks for joining us, guys. So what we're gonna do a short break, and once we come back, we're gonna continue our conversation. Like what things like Darryle, like what were their main argument against your experiments? Because we also did an experiment, something similar to yours, but with another thing, and we will get back into that and what were their main argument against that. So we're just gonna take a short break and we're gonna come back. Okay.
Excellent.
All right.
You want to go see the friends? Let's go see.
My name is Joshua Silva. I am a licensed commercial pilot and flight instructor. I have had a lifelong love of aviation and aerospace, and when growing up, I even fancied myself an amateur astronomer.
Number one, I'm a pilot, and when I used to fly out of Long Island towards Nantucket, bottom line here is they're going to give you some type of formula for every 100 miles. They're going to give you some type of XYZ per kilometer squared.
Been in aviation for 21 years. Anything from helicopters to aerostats to big birds, little birds, fighter jets, things with engines, no engines, big blades, little blades, compressor blades.
I woke up to the truth of the flat earth, shape of the earth, as an engineer and a pilot.
I'm a merchant marine. I've been sailing 15 years. I graduated from the Paul Hall Maritime Center out of Piney Point, Maryland. I primarily sail on container ships, tankers, drill ships, military cargo vessels, you name it, I can sail on it.
Work experience. I joined the Navy when I was 17 years old. I had a secret security clearance. There's different levels of security clearance. There's a lower level, then there's a secret, which is what I had.
I'll be providing my in-depth experience of U.S. Navy submarines and how they prove we do not live on a globe Earth. However, due to the nature of my job and the security clearance that I hold, I wish to remain anonymous.
All right, flatten the curve. It's been we have it in English and we have in 4 different languages: German, we've got a Holland, Dutch, and then we got in Spanish also. So make sure you guys check out Flatten the Curve. It's all over the place. And getting back to the show, before we go in, want to say hello to Bob from Globebusters. He's saying hi, Vikka, and to also Darryle Marble and the panel. Great to hear Darryle on with you guys. Nice to see you in the chat, Bob. And getting back to the show, we have Rob Taylor, Genie Edited, and our special guest, Darryle Marble. Welcome back, guys. And Darryle, so once you did the experiment, what was the main argument apart from the insults and the bullying and all their crap and changing the topic and ignoring the topic? And what was their main argument that why is your experiment wrong? Or that why is it wrong, your experiment?
Oh, why gravity, of course. that's, that's
Magic.
of course, their imaginary magic friend.
The magic sauce.
Yeah, they put that stuff on everything. But yeah, I mean, out of the top three was look out of the window. Number two was no, the plane wouldn't have to. No, the plane's following the curvature of the Earth, and of course that was tied to gravity because the airplane is being pulled towards the center of mass, and as it's flying, the curvature of the Earth is. I mean, everything's just being pulled to the center anyway, so the airplane wouldn't have to dip its nose down. I'm like, okay, dude, if you say so.
Like it's on a string, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
I had a guy tell me once that planes naturally follow the curve.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Really? Planes naturally follow the curve.
Yeah, naturally follow the curve.
Like the horror.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know who. Yeah, go ahead, Darryle.
No, it's like they would say, the plane takes off. It has to, tilt the nose upward to take off, and I mean, it has to tilt kind of downward to land and all that. But while it's flying level, it's flying perpendicular to the curvature of the Earth, and that's imperceptible because the airplane's flying so fast. They would say, I'm like,
yeah,
no, it's not.
Yeah, all that.
So fast we can't feel it, right?
Yeah,
that's the argument.
Yep, pretty much.
If I saw Rogan doing this recently, if you take a tennis ball and you throw it and you're in an airplane, you throw it up, it lands in your hand, right? That makes sense with like the atmosphere
in an enclosed environment. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But here's the question now: so let's make believe everything's following the atmosphere. Like in a plane, right? So what happens to spaceships when they leave the atmosphere then? So shouldn't like everything just fly away from them? What point do we lose that momentum with everything, right? So if you take a fly and throw it out your car window doing 60, can the fly catch up to you? Is it the same sort of idea? Somewhere you have to lose the atmosphere behind you, and you never do. And that's how they want it both ways again.
Yeah.
Right. They want it not just both ways, but they want it all ways. Everything they bring magical, right?
No, it's crazy. It's not even funny, really.
No, I mean you're right. You're right, and I actually put that argument up in one of my videos as far as what happens when these astronauts go out into space. I'm like, wait a minute, wait, hold on. When these astronauts, supposedly went to the moon. They're in a rocket. Now, let's say that rocket hits max speed, let's say 2,000 miles per hour. Let's say that the rocket can actually get to 2,000. All right. But the Earth is traveling through space at what? 66,000 miles per hour?
That's the orbital.
Okay.
Still following the sun at 100,000 or something like that. I forget. It's incredible speeds, though.
But even with that, so you're telling me that this rocket can leave Earth's atmosphere and it's no longer tethered to the pull of gravity of Earth's gravitation. So now it's out in space, and max speed 2,000 miles per hour. So it goes out to the moon, which is also following the Earth some way or another, or orbiting around the sun and all that, and. My argument was just that the rocket would be lost in space, just like you said, like a fly inside a car.
Yeah.
You got a car on the freeway going 65. There's a fly in there. The fly gets sucked out of the window. That's the astronauts going out into space.
Right.
The car keeps going. The car is Earth. How the hell is that fly going to catch up?
Exactly.
It's not going to happen.
It's never going to catch up to it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just kind of.
And And the crap they say, for example, about gravity, the excuse is gravity. When the plane is taking off, it needs all this potency to defy that gravity. And once he's on flying level, it's just, how does that work? So these guys they just talk crap. So was there any pilot who was literally saying, hey, that's gravity. That's why it's going around, but you don't feel it, or it was just trolls? Was there any pilot or somebody who was like saying, yeah, I'm from this profession and I'm saying you that this is like that? Was there anyone?
Mostly trolls, but there may have been a couple of trolls posing as pilots. In the comments, like I can't verify if they're actually a pilot or not. They could be a barista at Starbucks, and I got no idea. They're just typing, I'm an airline pilot, and this is what it is. I'm like, so I really can't call it. Trolls do what trolls do, but
Exactly. So because what you did, Darryle, was something mechanical and something so simple that there is no movement once the left flight is in level. Because what we did, a few years back also, what we did was uh, we took an application from a mobile with have altimeter functions. We did the same thing, but that was through an app, and checking the whole, the ascent, the flight level, and then descend. It registered the whole way, and we had the same problem. We had lots of trolls around. There was few pilots who were like, posing as pilots. So I think Gene knows about that video too. And there were many different excuses. Okay, there was few saying gravity, but one of the main excuses is that the ADI of a plane is constantly showing flying level because it's taking that level from the sea level below. But they don't say it's the sea level because the sea level is level. They say it's the altitude, it's the pressure altitude from outside is what it's detecting, and the altimeter is showing that constant. And even though if it's going around the curve, it's have the same pressure outside. That's why it's showing the same level. That's their one of the excuse. Rob, you want to comment something on that?
Yes, that is the truth when it comes to the barometric altimeter. That is correct. However, the attitude indicator shows if the aircraft is aiming nose up or nose down, and the passengers can verify this. They never feel the aircraft nosing down as if it's turning around the curve of the Earth. As a matter of fact, we've already talked about this, that the nose is programmed that it's 3 degrees up, and the pilots, we talked about this back at the straight and level. Level means not descending. There you go. And it's based on that gyro, and the pilot and the autopilot. Okay, the autopilot will keep that nose above the zero line in order to maintain the altitude. Even the autopilot will do that, and the autopilot will keep it level for hours at a time.
But the plane, Rob, the plane is taking the readings from two different way of reading the altitude. No, one is supposed to be the sea level, that's always the constant, and one is the pressure altitude. So the main argument of the Globies was because the pressure outside is constant, that's why the ADI is reading a constant level. But we know that the pressure is not always constant, depending on the geography, depending on the time.
That's mixing terms. The ADI is not linked into the pressure altitude. ADI is based on the gyro. Keep that in mind. When those globe trolls do that, they're mixing two different instruments. The barometric altimeter shows barometric altimeter from the air pressure. The
outside
ADI, outside the plane. The ADI references the nose up or down. That's all it does. The ADI does not measure altitude. All it measures is the nose going down or up. That's what the ADI is. Keep that in mind. So the ADI is not measuring altitude. It's measuring whether the nose is going down or up. And as we've discussed at length, In order to keep the aircraft at the same altitude, the nose has to be up a little bit, because even if it's 0, it'll lose altitude over time. So the nose has to be up the entire flight.
As the wings are level. Is that right?
That's part of it. The wings are programmed a little bit up, 3 degrees up. It's all set. It's all set to 3 degrees up. Our other guy, Brett told us that, and he explained it well. And any pilot knows this. And if they remember back to flight school, back to instruments, if you set your ADI, if you set your level right at 0, well then you're gonna merge. The aircraft is gonna, it's called porpoising. The nose of the aircraft is not going to stay right at the middle. It's going to want to go either high or low, and you're going to have to fight it the entire flight. Whereas if you put your nose up 3 degrees, then you're constantly, a little bit of drag somewhere makes everything better in the aviation world. So we put our nose up a little bit to maintain our altitude. That's the only way you're going to keep your altitude. If you put your nose down, you're steadily decreasing over time and you're losing altitude. But if you put your nose 3 degrees up, you're pretty well going to maintain your altitude.
What's the rate of descent, Rob? Is it 1,800 feet a minute? If we had to follow the curve?
If we had to follow the curve at 500 miles an hour, at 500 miles an hour, which is what most airlines fly at, okay, 500 miles an hour, they fly at so many knots. I don't know the conversion right now, but it's about 500 miles an hour. The descent rate is 2,770 feet per minute. Thanks for bringing that up, Gene.
2,700.
To follow the globe, okay, to
More
follow
than
the
I've
globe
remembered.
at 500 miles per hour. And this is easy math. This is literally 9th grade math. This is high school 9th grade math. It's just a unit conversion. From 500 miles an hour, put that in the 8 inches per mile squared, that the globe has to, that the elevation has to decrease.
42 miles in 5 minutes.
There you go. It's 2,770 feet per minute just to match the globe of the Earth. And let's keep this in mind. The average descent rate is 500 feet per minute. For landing, that's for landing and landing only. The aircraft descend one
so
time.
Rob, what happens?
Yeah.
What happens when you start to go faster than that? Is that when people start to get really uncomfortable and realize that's a little more than descent? That seems to be a problem.
That's correct.
Is that why they do that, for passenger comfortability, right?
That's exactly right, Gene. That's right. Imagine grandma on the back and you're descending really fast. If you descend too fast, guess what? Your things start rising off the floor and people start throwing up.
Yeah.
Literally, if you descend too fast, people start falling up. I mean, they really will. They'll throw up all over the plane. You don't want that. You don't want.
And the structure.
You don't want grandma unhappy back there. She won't fly in your aircraft anymore. She won't fly in your aircraft. And she'll tell all of her friends too. You don't want unhappy passengers.
I'd be one of those grandmas, though.
That's what it is. 2,700 feet per minute. That's faster than the drop of gravity. When you drop something, that's faster than the initial fall of gravity. The initial fall of gravity is 1,920 feet per minute. Okay, so when you go to 2,770, that's faster than the fall of gravity. So that's how absurd this is.
Exactly. So
500 miles an hour. It's just absurd. It's beyond absurd when we do the math. Like I said, the globe fails the math every time we try. It fails the first test. It fails the last test. Well, you don't get to the last test. The first test is enough because it fails every time.
exactly, the gravity is not working, and the pressure is not happening also. So what is the other excuses? Any other excuses on your side, Darryle?
Oh, yeah, mostly gravity. And then let me see. What are some of the more popular ones?
Yeah, because we also had, till you find one, we had another was like the pressure inside the cabin. You being constant. That's why the app was showing the constant level. That was another excuse.
Right. That's like the Reds Fitzgerald contraction. Yeah, more garbage. They just invent something and put some technical terms in it and act like it's the truth.
Yeah, yeah. And if anything
Really all
comes
they
up to
do.
oppose that, if anything comes up to oppose that, they always default back to gravity, or and you'll just end up mostly having long discussions about gravity. Is that because that's the last thing that they're going to hold on to? That, I mean, once you get them past that, um, it's a little bit easier for people to understand that, but it's hard for people to just kind of toss that one out the window. Like, dude, gravity does not exist. Let's start with you. Let's start with the assumption that gravity doesn't exist. And so many people have a hard time with that part.
Right. And the problem is, Darryle, the problem is that most people, they've never spent any time in the conceptual world. Most people, all the way up to high school and most degrees up until they graduate from the university, they graduate university, they're still at the rote memorization of learning. They've never spent any time in the conceptual world. They don't know how to think conceptually. And that's the problem. So when we reach those people, we have to show them how to think conceptually without having a hard example, a concrete example in front of them. That's what I mean when I say conceptually. They have to conceptualize something instead of seeing it or feeling it, right? That's what I mean, something physical.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're right, because they got to get it in their mind first. They have to be able to get a hold of it in their head before, because look at all the people looking at a flat plane saying, no, that's curved.
Yeah, right, exactly. They have to. And now I do this for people all the time. When I'm sitting in a restaurant, for example, I've got a glass with ice in it, just ice, okay, and or even it's ice in some liquid like a soda or something. I pull the ice out, a cube of ice, and I drop it on the table and say, "Yep, falls in the thin air. It falls straight to the table, right?" And then I drop it in the ice. I drop it in the water or soda. I say, why can't gravity pull it down through the water, through the liquid? Mm-hmm. There's a physical example, but people simply they can't conceptualize that. They see it.
Exactly, and another example, Rob. Yeah, Rob. Another example. What also Gene was saying. Yeah, that they see the flat plane, but they're saying it curved. So the same thing goes with the graph of the flight. When a plane takes off, it shows in the graph how it's going, like taking off, going to the cruising altitude, flying straight, and then descending. If the whole procedure is registered the way it is, if it's going around the curve, it should show a curve. They're showing a straight graph, and they're saying it's going around the curve.
Yeah.
I asked them, show me a graph with a curve.
Yeah.
From a flight data recorder,
Yeah. Their own graph of the flight shows that it's straight and level. Once it reaches altitude, its cruising altitude, it's at the same altitude, same flat trajectory, and then it descends for landing. There you go. And by the way, let's remember what my mom brought up. And just today I was outside taking a photo of jet streams in the air.
I know what you're gonna say.
They're flat. Go outside and look at a jet stream. The contrail behind a jet stream, it's never curved. It's never in an upside down U shape. It's always flat. It's always straight.
Yeah.
Look at the exhaust behind a jet. It's always perfectly flat.
But the atmosphere is curved, and the airplane is flying
in a gradient.
Yeah, the airplane is flying level, in relation to the atmosphere, which is also curved.
It's a mirage. That's what it is.
How does the atmosphere taper off if gravity's holding it down? That doesn't make any sense.
What we see is not real. That's what they're telling us. What we see is not real. Somehow it's not flat. Somehow there's a curve, right? What we see is not right. That's
Yeah,
no
so
lie.
this is the
Can
thing,
you imagine how they
So when I
feel
ask
knowing that
them,
though?
I also say to them, no, like the graph, if the graph is flat,
You got to
because if
be.
the ground is flat, and because if the graph, for example, I always give them an example of JFK flight, the JFK Junior flight graph you can find on the internet, and you can see the graph how the plane is going up and down and then going straight down. Why is it registering these movements? Because that's what the plane is doing. So
Mm,
if there is any curvature when the plane is compensating for any curvature during a flight, that should register any movement, and it's not
any
happening,
movement,
man. It's
right?
just flying constant. So they, even with pilot, even the so-called, they call themselves pilots, like how you said, Darrell, we don't know who are they, but they're claiming to be pilots. And they and they say go and see for flight is an application, where navigation application that many flight private flights use. And I said, yeah, I know the fly for flight. Okay, once you open the application, it looks a globe like Google Earth. But once you zoom in for the routes, it's flat map. Show me a curve map on that same route on a curve map on your application, and they couldn't.
Because it
They
doesn't
still argue
exist.
with you though.
Yeah, exactly, huh? Yeah, the
Mhm.
application just doesn't show it. We can imagine, right? It's really curved, but the application doesn't show it. Digital, in this digital age, the application doesn't show it. That's their argument. We know that.
Well, look at Google though. They can show you what year a quarter is on the ground, and then
Yeah,
when you
exactly.
and then as you pull away, I don't know what the height is, but it's a certain height it turns into a cartoon from real pictures that are real
Oh boy.
of your own house, people in it, in your yard sometimes, whatever have you. And then when you get up there, it turns to the CGI cartoons. They don't have real pictures after a certain height. I have to look into that. What is the height that they change over? I wonder. Maybe if anybody in the audience knows, they'll let me know.
Right. It's magic.
Well, it's part of the deception that I don't buy into it anymore. I feel very comfortable not believing much and knowing that what they say do the opposite. I always
Yeah.
kind of felt
Well,
comfortable with that.
yep.
Yeah.
Here it is, Gene. Are you telling us, Gene, that it's better to know than believe?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And then
Look,
as an adult, we can know just about anything we want. We just got to go research it. That's what research is, right?
yeah.
There
Yeah,
you go.
before it's gone.
Yeah, before our freedom to go find out is gone.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
their
with the
goal
Google
is.
Earth.
Hmm.
Go ahead, Jeannie.
Well, I was just going to say that's their goal, to keep tightening the ropes little by little, constantly, all over the place. And that's all they do. I've asked before, like somebody was touching on, what have they said to be true? Virtually zero. Taxes are true, right? But what do they do for us, these guys? What really do they do for us? No, I don't know anything that they've done any good for us, to tell you the truth. So I don't know. But that was a little
Definitely.
earlier.
Yeah, definitely nothing that I can think of.
And I've never
Positive.
met anybody who really think of anything good that they do. I haven't met anybody, even people that like these people. The statists. Like, well, we have parks. And like, parks? Have you seen the condition of half the parks in the United States lately? The streets? Don't tell me about the streets. Bridges and all that stuff. Don't go there. Because it's a whole nother
Yeah,
disaster waiting
well,
behind us.
what I wanted to add was, Jeannie, like, yeah, it's true, because Google Earth, you can literally see from some altitude, you can literally see it's the same geography. We can go through different places. It's exactly
Hmm.
the same. But once it go after a certain altitude, it becomes a animation. It becomes a joke.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the most happens with the most of the application and software used in different kind of navigation, be it aviation, or on the sea, or whatever. So all these applications are really using flat maps, flat charts. So one of the things also what some of the other trolls were saying, that this constant altitude that application is getting is through GPS, because the GPS is showing the exact same altitude again and again. It's not showing you the graph of that level flight. It's just showing you the same altitude at different. So they're coming up with so many different crap instead of giving the right answer. Because we had done it digitally, and Darryle had done it mechanically and showed it that there is no curvature, and they're coming up with so many different excuses than facing the truth.
Excuse after excuse, exactly. And absurd tall tale is what it is. There's nothing accurate about what they say. Nothing. There can't
Exactly. Carl Fletcher says Lorentz system. Exactly. It's all GPS. It's all tower based. Also, even if they're getting their altitudes or through other ways other than the navigation systems, it's through towers.
Ground
There is no
positioning.
satellite there. Exactly.
Yeah, it's not global. It's for ground positioning system.
Exactly. It's triangulation. So Lorentz system and all other ones.
And by the way, just for everybody's knowledge, one of the early examples of triangulation was Vietnam. When the U.S. helicopters were flying all over Vietnam, they were tracking themselves on the map. They knew where they were from more or less FM radio triangulation. And arguably, the U.S. government had used it in World War II as well. So that kind of radio triangulation has existed long time. It's nothing new, and it's actually old technology. So it was by FM radio, so by towers and more distinct radio signals, such as cell phone. A cell phone is just a radio. That's all it is. Just keep that in mind. A cell phone is just a radio that receives a digital signal, but it's no different than an FM radio. There you go.
Oh, so there was some trolls in that video were saying about that the phone was having something that was detecting the gravity. That's why also it was reading the same level. I don't know, Jeannie, if you read that.
Yeah, ask them to define gravity. Define gravity, okay? They'll not do
They
it because
can't.
there is no definition.
They don't have one.
Right. There's no definition of gravity. And the only measurement, for everybody's knowledge, the only measurement they have of gravity is 9.8 meters per second squared, or 32 feet per second squared, which is measured in a vacuum, which does not exist in the real world. So the only measurement they have for gravity is erroneous because they take it in an environment that does not exist in the real world. It's erroneous. We cannot use the measurement of gravity in the real world. It's false. It's a miscalculation.
Yeah, but this is the thing. You know, how can the phone detect that gravity thing? That was also one of the most stupid things that I heard.
That was a good one.
A gravity sensor on the phone, is that what it is?
Yeah,
that's
what they were saying.
The gravity app, right? The gravity app. Seriously, seriously, here we are laughing at it, but they're serious about it. The phone detects gravity. Oh, does it really? How?
When you drop it.
Yeah, well, it'll sure detect a hard surface when it lands on something from a drop of 10 feet, right?
Rob, doesn't the gravity constant debunk gravity itself? Right, a 10-pound ball falls just as fast as a 20-pound ball. Take out the airspeed because somewhere it has a little effect. Right. But if you're dropping a bowling ball out of a plane, is the air really affecting it?
As a matter of fact, yes. Anything that's falling, and I'm learning this I'm reciting this from free fall in parachuting. If when there's air resistance, that's when you arrive at terminal velocity.
Right.
Anytime there's any type of drag, and there always will be, any object will have its own terminal velocity, and that's where the drag comes from. So there is a terminal velocity. Every object has a drag coefficient. So a 20-pound ball is different than a 10-pound ball. It's going to be 20 pounds difference, whatever the equation is, because it's got more weight to it. So it's a little bit different.
So
but not very much. Like
but,
point.
But are they going to fall at the same rate of speed? What if they're the same size too?
Well,
what if
the same size is okay, but the weight does make a little difference because they're the same size, and I'm assuming the same aerodynamics. That 10 pounds is not going to make a lot of difference. Believe me, it's not going to make a lot of difference at all. But when you come down to it, you can imagine it weighs 10 more pounds. It's going to have a slightly different terminal velocity, probably 0.05 miles an hour. Okay. 0.05 miles an hour, but it's a little bit different. You see what I mean?
Negligible. Well, that's my point. Well, shouldn't it go, if there was a force dragging it down, shouldn't it go twice as fast? It's a 20-pound one versus a 10-pound one, right?
Well, there you go. And there you go, Gene. Back to the point where our car outside, let's say our car weighs 5,000 pounds. It probably weighs 3,000 pounds, whatever. Let's just say the car that we drive on, it weighs 5,000 pounds. Well, the pulling force obviously pulls that car, makes it weigh 5,000 pounds. Why can't we measure the same 5,000 pound pull on our body or anything in the house, right? If gravity is universal, then it should execute a universal force. And that right there is
exactly. Yes.
Right there. Yep.
Same thing, a little different, but it's the same idea.
It is the same idea, right? Conceptually, we would have to measure a universal force, but in reality, we can't measure a force at all. We cannot measure a force at all. There is no force called gravity. It's not even. Right. Remember this. Let's remember at the universities, it's not even proposed as a force. It's proposed as a theory. Gravity is a theory. It's not even taught as a force. People don't even remember that. Gravity's not a force. It's a theory. Let's stay there. Gravity's a theory.
Yeah.
If it were a force, we could measure it, but we cannot measure it. So therefore, it must remain as theory. Therefore, gravity itself is negligible because it's a theory, and we can't measure it. We can't measure it. It doesn't exist. Gee, if we were going to a court of law, where could we measure gravity? If in a court of law, if we can't measure gravity, we can't use it as evidence. There you go. Gravity doesn't exist. Just proved it right there. Fabulous, eh?
Yeah. I wish people would understand this. I hope you guys out there are sharing these videos. Your friends need to see this stuff, listen to this stuff. We're trying to give you good stuff to bring your friends who are on the fence, everybody. And say, hey, listen to this, watch this, pay attention, right? That's all we're trying to do.
And rewind it, back the cursor up and play it again until they get it. Right? Gravity does not exist. We can't measure it. Gravity is a theory. Gravity was never been a force. If it were a force, it'd be universal. Everything would be with the same amount as gravity. Everything.
And no, not to bring these guys up again, but that's Neil deGrasse Tyson says that we can't measure it. So that's the guy everybody goes to. One of those NASA guys, or he's from the planetarium over there in Manhattan. So there's all of their guys, their top guys saying the stuff that we're proving is not right. So
there's the proof right there. If we can't measure something, then it doesn't exist, right? If we can't,
Rob, they're pasting the gravity everywhere. Even with the gyro stuff, they're saying the same thing because of the angular momentum and the gravity in effect. So they're pasting it everywhere. Even now with the spirit level and with the altimeter and all the experiment, all the same thing, the gravity. So they don't have other things to in a way to prove.
It's their magic sauce, and they can't even prove it. And if people look, just think twice. They can't. There's no evidence of it, but they spread it everywhere. Vika, it's like the magic lie, the big magic lie. They spread it everywhere. Yeah, it's like Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mouse and gravity, right? They spread it everywhere.
Absolutely, and I mean they just can't live without it. They can't imagine. Seriously, they really can't. You know, they're like, okay, so if gravity doesn't exist, then what force is pulling everything back downward? Then, you know, like there's no other explanation as to why things fall through any medium. So it's kind of crazy.
Well, you know, if the sun had so much gravity, how did the Parker space probe get so close and fly away?
No, I mean it's well, NASA has this special anti-gravity technology, right?
Anti-heat, anti-gravity, anti-melt.
It's kind of like their anti-logic capacity, which is infinite.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, you know, people don't even like consider those simple things like, okay, so the sun's gravity, the gravitation from the sun is keeping the Earth in this fixed position, this exact distance from the sun the entire time. We won't pull the Earth any closer. You know, there are points where the moon is between the Earth and the sun, called eclipse. Why is it that during an eclipse, the moon doesn't get pulled towards the sun if the sun's gravitational pull is so much stronger than the Earth's? I mean, like...
It has zero effect. It doesn't do anything to it.
Yeah.
And it's elliptical orbit. How does it orbit elliptically? It goes faster one season, slower in another. Twice a year.
Well, I mean, obviously that's gravity too, you know.
That's what they're saying.
just another aspect of gravity.
That's what they want.
It's a complete absurdity, right? If the sun's gravitational pull was so strong, well, the Earth would have gone into it already, right? The Earth would no longer exist. It would have been burned up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Simple as that. Right. Especially when the moon orbits around behind the Earth, so the Earth is between the sun and the moon, right? It should all end right there. That should be the one line of everything falls to the sun right there, right?
Pretty much.
Exactly, huh? But then again, gentlemen, what we've realized here is most people, they're afraid to enter that conceptual world and to think about what would happen, what must happen when certain forces are acting on each other, if they existed, right? When we start to enter the mechanical world, that's when we have to start questioning things, all this imagination in our head. What that shows that most people have never entered the world thinking, how do gears work? How do mechanics work? Most people will never enter there. They live in the world of computer video games, and they never step out of it. Most people are really, they don't see the world physically.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Okay, one of the comment I want to add. I want to comment from the same video. Someone says about gravity. You know, from that video, gravity keeps the plane at a fixed radius from the Earth, provided the plane keeps everything the same, speed and so forth. That's why the elevation stays the same. Simply look out of the window and see if there is a curvature.
Because every plane is on a string. That's why, right? Back to the string argument. Every plane is on a string, and it can't escape the string.
Yep. No, and as far as my rebuttal for looking out of the window, I actually put up a video titled "Why Don't You Just Look Out of the Window?" or something like that, you know.
Exactly.
And I recorded it was a 45-minute flight from Little Rock to Dallas, I believe it was, and I recorded that entire flight from takeoff, you know, all the way to, you know, landing on the other side. And there were a lot of times where I was showing the horizon, like, okay, it's still flat. You know, we've gotten to cruising altitude where we moved, you know, good 45 minutes. So we've traveled at least, you know, 1,000 miles, you know, something like that. And yeah, people still, you know, didn't get it. He still didn't get it.
Refused to get it. So, Darryle, let's talk about that. When we look outside of the airplane window, how is our view any different than the pilot's view?
Our view is limited in that we only get to look out in that one direction, I suppose. Whereas the pilot's in the front, and they have a wider angle that they can look at, so they can kind of look out to the front and then look off to the left and right as well. So the pilots should be the first ones to realize that there is no curvature because they can see further than anybody, and they get up high enough and they can just look from left to right and everything's level as far as the eye can see. So,
but is that any different than a passenger window? We could still see enough to detect a curve if there was any curve there.
Yeah.
See what I mean?
Yeah. And there isn't. There isn't. The pilot can't see it. The passenger can't see it.
The pilot's view is much broader, and it's more or less unrestricted, probably 180 degrees or a little bit more if he can see backwards. But the passenger can see as much as the pilot. That's my point.
Yeah.
We could see it. We could see the sky no different than the pilot. So my point here is you don't have to be a pilot to look out the window and see the flat horizon out there. That's my point there. You don't have to be a pilot to notice the flat horizon. That's the point, right?
Oh yeah.
In other words, pilots don't have any more intuition than any passenger in the back. What they should know is what their instruments are telling them, and the only instrument. Well, there's two. There's the ADI, which is the attitude indicator, and then the decel. Or the not accelerometer, but the instrument that tells us how fast we're descending. Those are the two main instruments that the pilot should know that the passengers don't see. Is the attitude indicator that tells us we're not dipping our nose around the curve. But then again, the pilot or the passengers in the back, they can feel that. They can feel if the aircraft is nosing down. They know that. They know when that's there. So in other words, what I'm getting at is the passenger doesn't have a terribly different view or different understanding than the pilot. There's not a whole lot that a pilot knows that a passenger doesn't.
I'm glad you said that, Rob. Let people understand that, because they tend to put certain people with certain degrees in an elevation where they might not necessarily belong.
The Masonic degrees mean somehow somebody has a degree. They're somehow smarter than anybody else, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's take that concept and throw it in the round dustbin. Yeah, how about that?
Thank you.
Just because somebody has a degree doesn't mean they have any better understanding.
And I think a lot of people do really understand that. You didn't agree with all your teachers throughout your education, and that could point out a thing or two here or there. But not all of them are. Some of them are brilliant, and some of them are not. Somewhere out there's the world's worst brain surgeon, right?
Yeah, and how do we know? Well, analysis, right? Research and analysis. That's the only way to know. There you go.
Yeah.
And verify, right? What does Paul tell us in the Bible? Prove all things. And he means analyze and validate. If we can't validate it, if it fails, like the globe fails every test, we have to throw it out. We cannot validate.
Yeah, I don't try to. For a while, I looked for it. I was like, well, maybe I'm wrong. I don't really know, but this is crazy. And I think deep inside I knew, but I didn't want to be wrong so quick. I jumped off the bandwagon really quick, like in one day. A few videos, and that was the end of it. And Darryle, you were up there too. I was watching your stuff real early. Thank you very much, by the way, for the work you've done. It was a lot of interesting stuff. You broke a lot of ground open for everybody.
Good work.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you.
It's good to see. Phil, and our research forum, we are the Flatten the Curve Research Forum, and that's what we seek: more evidence, more analysis that shows the globe is absurd. And the more the better, Darryle. Absolutely, the more the better. So welcome to our research forum. Thanks for your material and input.
Cool. Thank you.
Voila.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Exactly. Yep. The RTS update. Happy resurrection. Happy Easter to all of you. Because
Oh
hey,
yeah, happy
big hello to
resurrection.
RTS.
Not it's
And
let's get away from happy Ashtoreth Day. Let's say happy resurrection in Jesus Christ. Let's go there. Let's make it that.
exactly. And RTS update. A big hello to RTS update. And right, live restream on RTS with 11,000 views, 2,000 likes so far. Support Flat Earth director Vikka Draziv on his channel and streams on RTS. Thank you, RTS Update, for all your help for putting up the show on RTS. It's one of we are our biggest sponsor for all our projects and for upcoming projects. So thank you, brother, and yeah, it was a great discussion. We know that the Globe Talk
Darryle,
will
do you
come
know?
up with any excuse, but give the real answer or face the truth. Like we did such because the most thing they hate is that such simple experiments destroys their globe. That's the thing they cannot handle, and that's what is documented in all the commentaries of these videos. That they cannot handle the truth because it's so simple to destroy the illusion. So they have so many different excuses, but
There you
nothing
go.
works. It's everything is like that, but it's all round. So
There you go.
crazy
Back
stuff.
to the point there, Vika. Such simple experiments. Every time we test the globe, it fails. Every time. Have no fear. It cannot stand. Simply cannot stand. It's like,
Exactly.
yeah, there you go.
Go ahead.
It's
So yeah, speaking.
a round peg in a square hole, right? Doesn't work. Cannot do it. Can't fit the spherical model in the firmament reality.
Exactly. So as I was commenting about RTS, I would like to say, Darryle, if you have a YouTube channel and you are a content creator, do make sure if you want to join RTS, it's realtruthseekers.com or realtruthseekers.net. I'm going to send you a link later. It's an independent platform for all kind of truthers, and we have a lot of flat earthers there too. We are growing a community. It's totally unshadow banned, no censorship, and a one place for all truth seekers of amazing stuff, a lot of exposure, reaching a lot of people. And they would also be glad to have you there as a content creator, real truth seekers.
All right, yeah, send a link over. That'd be cool.
Excellent, bro. So we're gonna be having a last round of last thoughts before we wrap up. So who wants to go first?
I'll go first. Vika, thanks again for the invite. It's always fun being here. I love being part of this. And I hope everybody in the audience had a great day, and every day is great for you guys, not just today. I hope every day is like a holiday for you, and happy and healthy. Yeah, I really do. That's how I feel.
And you know what, Gene? That's a great point. Anybody can reach that. Once they recognize the true shape of the earth, every day does become a holiday because we realize that we don't have to worry about the heliocentric world anymore with its 9 to 5 and with its endless requirements and its endless worries. We don't have to worry about that anymore. We can now concentrate on the truth of Jesus Christ and move forward without anxiety. Beautiful.
I feel very comfortable in life, and I always did, but getting into flat Earth leads you to God, and it does, and it takes weight off of you that you might not even know you have in places. Good for me. I'm a pretty mellow guy, and I don't know how much more mellow I could get.
Say that flat Earth is perfect therapy. Perfect therapy.
Yeah, it really kind of is. Thank you.
There you go.
Teamwork, brother.
Yeah, it's a good source of stress relief because
Yes.
there's so many people worried about the Earth being hit by a huge asteroid coming from space, but when you
Aliens and all that.
But then when you realize that space is fake, then all that kind of goes out the window.
Exactly, and flat Earth is important. Flat Earth is important in a way because once you really start applying that, you apply that to your life in many different ways. You start making different decisions because you start seeing many things in a different way. Even if you consciously or unconsciously, the way you make decision changes too. I think it's very, very important because there are things where you say, you can't do anything about it, about most of the conspiracy, but with flat Earth, you really feel like, like, man, this is, I don't know, it's my opinion.
No, I agree personally.
Absolutely.
It gives you some strength inside.
Yes, it does. It gives us strength as a human being instead of a member of a working ant army.
Very good.
We're human beings. We're children of the Most High instead of mindless, brainless, accidental members of a Roman-style slave economy. How about that? There you go.
You're a poet.
Voila. There you go, my friend. I lived it for 22 years, and Darryle lived it for 8. I realized that I was just, no matter what I was I white-collar army officer, and knew all this, I was still limited in my progression. I was limited by whatever place I held in their bullshit slave economy. And I knew it was all Roman style. The U.S. Army is the modern-day Roman army. Okay, and if we limit ourselves to that, then we will always limit it. We'll be limited to that forever. Flat Earth leads to Jesus Christ. We've already acknowledged that. Once we get there, we realize that there is no distinction among people. Right. People are all people, and people are most important on the flat surface of the earth. Life opens up. Life becomes more mentally manageable once we realize the truth of Jesus Christ, that we're walking on it. We're literally walking on the truth of Jesus Christ, the creation.
Yeah.
Life becomes real once we reach that point. Voila.
Thanks. And speaking about the army, I will throw it in there. I tell you, if they're really the army people of, not only of US, all the army people of the whole world, if they really wake up to the truth, everything could change. Because what I'm trying to say, because really there is no real fight happening in this world. I don't want to go off topic, but the control of the world are not fighting for anything. They're just making people fight, and the army people are the ones who are losing their life and everything and many things. So
right, that's how they do it.
No, if they say that's over, if they and the armed forces and the cops and the police, if they say that's it, it's over.
Good point.
Because who is the real enemy? Who's the real enemy? Because everybody is a hero. Every country, every army, every person who's fighting for the country is a hero in their country. So who is the enemy?
We all know that.
Good
None
point
of us.
there. That's an excellent point. Who's the enemy after all?
None of us would be running this world like this. None of us would be doing this. It's the power control thing.
Well, right now,
serious psychopaths.
We're in Masonic World War III right now, which is the war against terrorism. And terrorism is different in every country.
Don't use hot word, brother. Yep. All right. Go ahead.
Okay. Got it. So, but let's remember, somebody controls everything. So whoever it is that's controlling the enemy of the world today, the instability of the world today, the same people who controlled all the other enemies is controlling that entity as well. Somebody controls it. All we have to do is wake up and educate ourselves. We realize, like Vikka said, the great flat earth guru himself, who is the enemy? There is no enemy. Let's wake up and harmonize human negotiations. By the way, I'll add here, I have traveled in 48 countries around the world. I speak 8 languages, 4 fluently. What I'm getting at is you don't see a jihad knife in my back. I've traveled in many Islamic countries. They're not,
Right.
those people are not our enemies. Those people are not our
Thank you.
enemies. We people don't have enemies.
Thank you.
The enemy comes from another source. And we talk about that. The enemy comes from other sources. It's
It
not
does.
people. The enemy is not people. There's the answer,
Yeah.
Vika. The
I,
enemy
I
is
grew
not
up in
people.
Excellent.
I grew up in Brooklyn and hanging out in Manhattan. You could walk the streets and not understand half the conversations going on around you because there's so many different languages, and people get along fine.
Right.
People get along just
Even
fine.
without a similar language, they get along fine, don't they? You put 2 kids together,
Absolutely,
they get along fine.
they sure do.
For example, perfect example, when my 2 daughters met the 2 sons of my friend from France,
Mhm.
they didn't speak French, but there they were. They were playing on the beach for 2 hours
Yeah,
without language. There they were.
beautiful.
There you go.
We gotta grow up and die as old of a kid as you can, right?
Well said. How about that, right? That's a
Yeah,
good point.
I don't ever want to be an adult in this world.
And what
No.
did Jesus say? Unless a man or woman become as little children, meaning thinking pure and without defilement from man's universities and man's hatred, right? Unless we become as little children, thinking pure and reasoning pure, we shall not see the kingdom of God. There you go, Gene.
I hope that doesn't happen to me.
And it won't. Just keep your adult head on you. Okay,
I hope so.
I'll go ahead with my final comments. I've already, for the most part, I've already made them. The truth of the shape of the earth, the truth of flat earth points to Jesus Christ. The truth of the spirit of the spiritual matters points to Jesus Christ. All truth points to Jesus Christ. Once we arrive at Jesus Christ, life becomes real. We start understanding our stress. We can eradicate 90% or more of our stress if we would just recognize the truth and accept it and realize that it's all around us. And that's the whole point of our Flatten the Curve research forum, because that's what we are. We are an ongoing research forum. We'll put out another documentary every now and then, and we got a second one coming up. But the whole point is seeking truth in all ways at all times. And all truth is Jesus Christ, and that's the answer. Thank you. My final complete.
Awesome. Thank you, Rob. Awesome. Jeannie, thank you, brother. Darryle, your last thoughts, bro.
Well, I'd just like to thank you guys for inviting me on. Again, it's been a while since I've done one of these interviews. I appreciate you a whole lot. For everyone listening, this is one of the more simple things to prove. It's one of the easier concepts to relate to someone without sounding too crazy. We can convey this information as far as flat Earth with logic and clarity and just simple examples, and
Simple examples, yes, sir.
that'll give people a lot of insight as to other points of deception. It'll kind of open this door, this gateway in their mind to realizing that the whole world is a stage, as it were. So
their stage, right? Yes,
yeah,
the world is a stage.
Exactly. So I mean, we can just move forward with spreading the truth as best we can, and just doing the best we can to live out the golden rule, treating people the way that we want to be treated.
Well said.
Just trying to live a balanced life.
Balanced life with a proper foundation. How about that? Proper foundation.
Absolutely.
And the proper firmament overhead.
Yes. All right.
Awesome, brother. It was pleasure to have you, Darryle, and thank you for your work and also what you do for Flat Earth. And yeah, we know truth is simple, and we put it out there, and we know the only way globers have is bullying and trolling, but they cannot really disprove us from all from the most simplest things to all what we are showing in all our works and different works, and also with the documentaries. So thank you for passing by, brother.
And thanks for having me.
And thanks, Rob, for all your work and joining us here too, and Jeannie. And thank you, everybody in the chat. Make sure you guys tune in for our next show next week. We're going to be getting more awesome content. And thank you guys for being here. Thank you, Darryle. Thank you, Jeannie. Thank you, Rob.
Thank
Bye,
you, Vika.
everyone. This is.
And vice versa. Thanks to Vika for all of his work in coordination and lining up guests and everything from there. By the way, Vika and everybody else, I'm in the review stage of the 2 songs, putting the English subtitles on. So we're soon to have a subtitle in English for the documentary. Almost done with that.
Very nice.
Excellent, brother. Thank you. So we all doing our part to take the truth ahead. So thank you, everyone, and see you soon for the next show of HelioPsychosis podcast by Vikka Draziv. See you guys. Bye.
Have a good week,
Okay.
everybody. Good night.
All right. Goodbye.
Bye.